Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a man and a woman at an employment agency. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now the full test will begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, as the recording is not played twice. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hi there. Welcome to People Central. I'm Sarah. How can I help you?
Hi Sarah, I'm Mark. I'm out of work right now and I'd like to find a job.
I'm sure we can find something for you. We have lots of companies searching for people in different industries. What kind of job are you looking for?
I'm looking for a job in accountancy.
Fine. I'm sure we can help you out with that. To begin with, I need to take some personal details for our files. You said your first name is Mark. What's your surname?
It's Castle. C-A-S-T-L-E.
Thank you. And I need your address.
It's 13 Wellington Street, South Brisbane, Queensland.
And the postcode?
It's 4101.
Now I need your date of birth.
It's 30th of May, 1988.
Thank you. Let me just write that down. What was the month again?
May, the 30th of May, 1988.
Got it. Do you have an email address we can have?
Yes. Let me think for a second which is best.
Do you have more than one?
Yes, I've got 3.
Really?
Okay, I think I know. The address you can use is markc@australianow.com.
Okay, just a minute. I have to write that all down. Did you say the provider is australianow.com?
That's right.
Good. Now, what contact phone numbers do you want to give me?
My home number is 07 3554 7671.
Do you have a mobile phone number as well? As that's often the easiest way to get hold of people.
Of course, my mobile number is 046 9153 443.
Thanks. Now let me look at the form. Yes, there's just one more initial question left, and that is whether you have any preferred areas where you'd like to work.
I don't really want to travel too far from home, so the area of Brisbane, of course, and I suppose anywhere within a drive of about 2 hours.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, do you have your professional certificates?
Yes, here you are. They're all in this file.
I'll need to make some copies, but our copier is down. Do you mind if I keep them for a day?
I have scans of all of them. I can send them to you in a moment from my phone. You can just check the originals now.
That's a good idea. I'll do that in a second. Now, we've got a selection of different companies looking for an accountant right now. Let's have a look at this first one. It's a big printing company down that coast called Gold Coast Printing. It's about an hour away, and you can drive there quite easily.
I know that company. I can also get a train there quite easily, which I prefer, as it takes away the stress of the drive. I hate driving too far and buses are always too slow for me.
Well, that's handy then. So Gold Coast Printing needs someone full-time, starting as soon as possible. The working hours are 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. For details about what exactly you'd be doing and the benefits package, you'll need to talk with the company itself. We just get you together.
It's certainly a possibility.
I've another company here that needs a part-time accountant starting next month. They're an import-export company and they have a Brisbane city centre location. Parking might be a problem, but the bus or tram would get you there easily.
Yes, the travel is no headache and it'd be fun to work in the city centre, but I'm not sure about a part-time job. I'll probably need to earn more than that can provide.
Yes, that might be a problem. Let's look at the next one then. It's a fishing company called Barracuda, down on the docks at the Brisbane River. They're a small family firm and they need a full-time accountant to help them with their expansion.
That would be very interesting, but I usually prefer larger companies. When it's a small company, there can often be problems with personal relationships.
Well, that's the 3 possibilities that we have right now, though I know we might be getting some more next week.
Well, I was quite interested in Gold Coast Printing. I can get in contact with them and then see what comes in next week.
Okay, I'll set up a meeting for you with them.
By the way, do I need to pay you anything for placing me?
The company who we place you with will pay us, but you aren't charged any commission at all.
Oh good, that's great for me.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 2. Section 2. You will hear a talk on New Zealand radio about an art sale which is being held to raise money for charity. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 13. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 13.
One of the most anticipated art events in Christchurch is the charity art sale organised this year by Neil Curtis. Neil, tell us all about it.
Well, Diane, this looks like being the biggest art sale yet. And the best thing about it is that the money raised will all go to charity. So what you probably want to know first is where it is. Well, the pictures will be on view all this week, most of them at the Star Gallery in the shopping mall. But we have so many pictures this year that we're also showing some in the cafe next door. So do drop in and see them any day between 9 and 5. Now, if you're interested in buying rather than just looking, and we hope a lot of you will be, the actual sale will take place on Thursday evening, with sales starting at 7:30. Refreshments will be available before the sale, starting at 6:30. We've got about 50 works by local artists showing a huge range of styles and media, and in a minute I'll tell you about some of them. You're probably also interested in what's going to happen to your money once you've handed it over. Well, all proceeds will go to support children who are disabled, both here in New Zealand and also in other countries. So you can find an original painting, support local talent, and help these children all at the same time.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 14 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 14 to 20.
Now, let me tell you a bit about some of the artists who have kindly agreed to donate their pictures to the charity art sale. One of them is Don Studley, who has a special interest in the art sale because his 5-year-old daughter was born with a serious back problem. After an operation earlier this year, she's now doing fine, but Don says he wants to offer something to help other less fortunate children. Don is totally self-taught and says he's passionate about painting. His paintings depict some of our New Zealand birds in their natural habitats. One relative newcomer to New Zealand is James Chang, who came here from Taiwan 9 years ago at the age of 56. Mr. Chang had 13 exhibitions in Taiwan before he came to live here in Christchurch, so he's a well-established artist, and art has been a lifelong passion for him. His paintings are certainly worth looking at. If you like abstract pictures with strong colour schemes, you'll love them. Natalie Stevens was born in New Zealand, but has exhibited in China, Australia and Spain. As well as being an artist, she's a website designer. She believes art should be universal, and her paintings use soft colours and a mixture of media. Most of her pictures are portraits, so watch out. Some of them may even be friends of yours. And then we have Christine Shin from Korea. Christine only started to learn English 2 years ago when she arrived in New Zealand, but she's been painting professionally for over 10 years, and she sure knows how to communicate strong messages through the universal language of art. She usually works from photographs and paints delicate watercolours, which combine traditional Asian influences with New Zealand landscapes, giving a very special view of our local scenery. Well, that's all I have time to tell you now, but as well as these 4, there are many other artists whose work will be on sale, so do come along on Thursday. We accept cheques, credit cards or cash. And remember, even if you don't buy a picture, you can always make a donation.
That is the end of Section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You will hear a man and a woman discussing the man's recent training. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Kevin. Welcome back.
Hi, Christine. Thanks. It's good to be back.
Do you have a moment? I want to get some feedback about the training you've been on.
Of course. I have a meeting in 20 minutes, but I'm free until then.
So, you were away for 3 nights. Was the accommodation okay?
Well, the room was clean and it was serviced every day before I got back. It was a little bit noisy as the side of the hotel where I was sleeping was quite near a train line, so every time a train passed I could hear it quite clearly. Trains weren't that common at night though, so it didn't disturb me too much.
I see. Well, next time we book that hotel, we'll request a room away from that side. Did you find the conference centre where the training was easily?
The directions they gave me were atrocious. I ended up being half an hour late on the first day. The directions instructed me to take a road that went the other way. It was only when I stopped at a petrol station and asked for directions that I was able to get back on the right road.
Didn't you have a sat-nav?
I did, but the charging cable had broken and it wasn't working that morning. If it had been working, then there would have been no trouble at all.
Were they okay that you were so late on the first day?
Some of the other trainees gave me looks, but the trainer wasn't worried and she was very apologetic about the problems. She even phoned her boss to complain at the first break and told me they would fix things immediately.
That's more like it.
Yes, and that really summed up the trainer. Nothing was too much trouble for her. She was also extremely knowledgeable about her subject and skilled at getting her ideas across. A natural teacher, I'd say.
I'm happy about that. At my last training, the trainer was just awful. He was late, he hadn't prepared, and he plainly didn't care about any of the trainees.
Oh, that does sound awful.
Was everything okay at the conference centre?
Well, the internet connection was a bit slow, which was annoying as I wanted to keep in contact with the office. It didn't really affect the software training, though, as we didn't need to go online very often. The training room had everything that was needed, though it would have been nice to have drinks there. These places are all air-conditioned and it can make you very dry. The food was fine and the place was clean and tidy.
How were the other trainees?
Well, I got a bit of a frosty reception when I first arrived because of my lateness, but they soon warmed up after they heard the reasons and were fantastic. We all became very friendly.
Did you all have the same knowledge level?
Yes, pretty much. It was really good in that way, as we all shared the same problems and so we could discuss things and learn from each other. It was actually really productive and the best part of the training. We swapped contact details so that we can keep in touch and help each other with the new software installations.
It's often the way that contacts can be just as productive as the training.
Yes, exactly.
You now have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the discussion and answer questions 26 to 30.
So, did you manage to get the software all installed on our systems?
Yes, I did, but it was quite a struggle.
What happened?
The plan was after the training I would spend the weekend here at the offices installing everything.
That was a bit tough, having to spend the weekend here.
Yes, but when things like this happen, my contract states that I get an extra 4 days in lieu that I can add to my summer holiday. That made my wife quite happy.
I bet it did.
So I had a real long session here at the weekend.
What happened?
The first thing was that our existing operating system was a bit out of date for the new software. In order to fix that, I had to run updates on the whole system, and during that time, I just had to wait.
Did it take long?
A couple of hours. It had to be done though, or I'd have had to buy new computers for everyone. The updates were slow, but free. The next problem was that our systems just couldn't accept the new software. I tried everything, but it wouldn't work. I thought I'd have to get a consultant in this morning to help me.
How did you fix that in the end?
Fortunately, one of my fellow trainees on the course had just done what I was trying to do, so I called her. She managed to talk me through everything. It took a bit of time though, and I really thought I'd have to get the consultants in.
So, it all got installed in the end?
Yes, but the problems hadn't ended.
What happened next?
Well, after I got everything fixed up, I did a few trial runs in order to see if things were working well. It seemed fine, but then I noticed some irregularities. Unfortunately, a bug had got into the system and was starting to mess things up.
How did you fix that?
It was lucky I saw it so early, or I'd never have fixed it. I had a look at the code that was causing the problem, and I recognized it. It was something the antivirus setup we have already couldn't handle, so I had to buy some more complex add-ons. They were downloaded straight away and they cleared away the bug.
Was that the end of it?
Almost. The last thing was that I stayed so long at the office on Sunday night that the automatic alarm was set while I was still there. Of course, the alarm went off and the alarm was blaring out. I thought the police were going to come and take me away.
Did you call the security firm and give them the all-clear password?
Yes, I did, but it was the old one. I gave the new one straight away afterwards, but it was too late then. I had to call the boss and he called the security. Luckily, it all happened before the police got there.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 4. Section 4. You will hear a speaker giving a talk about some recent research about unusual life forms. First, You have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 6th of our ecology evening classes. Nice to see you all again. As you know from the programme, today I want to talk to you about some research that is pushing back the frontiers of the whole field of ecology. And this research is being carried out in the remoter regions of our planet, places where the environment is harsh and, until recently, it was thought that the conditions couldn't sustain life of any kind. But life forms are being found, and these have been grouped into what is now known as extremophiles. That is, organisms that can survive in the most extreme environments. And these discoveries may be setting a huge challenge for the scientists of the future, as you'll see in a minute. Now, the particular research I want to tell you about was carried out in Antarctica, one of the coldest and driest places on Earth. But a multinational team of researchers from the US, Canada, and New Zealand recently discovered colonies of microbes in the soil there where no one thought it was possible. Interestingly enough, some of the colonies were identified as a type of fungus called Bouveria bassiana, a fungus that lives on insects. But where are the insects in these utterly empty regions of Antarctica? The researchers concluded that this was clear evidence that these colonies were certainly not new arrivals. They might have been there for centuries, or even millennia. Possibly even since the last ice age. Can you imagine their excitement? Now, some types of microbes had previously been found living just a few millimetres under the surface of rocks, porous Antarctic rocks. But this was the first time that living colonies had been found surviving, relatively deeply in the soil itself, several centimetres down, in fact. So, the big question is, how can these colonies survive there? Well, we know that the organisms living very near the rock's surface can still be warmed by the sun, so they can survive in their own microclimate. And this keeps them from freezing during the day. But this isn't the case for the colonies that are hidden under the soil. In their research paper, this team suggested that the very high amounts of salt in the soil might be the clue, because this is what is preventing essential water from freezing. The team found that the salt concentration increased the deeper down they went in the soil. But while they had expected the number of organisms to be fewer down there, they actually found the opposite. In soil that had as much as 3,000 parts of salt per million, relatively high numbers of microbes were present, which seems incredible. But the point is that at those levels of salt, the temperature could drop to minus 56 degrees before frost would cause any damage to the organisms. This relationship between microbes and salt, at temperatures way below the normal freezing point of water, is a really significant breakthrough. As you all know, life is dependent on the availability of water in liquid form, and the role of salt at very low temperatures could be the key to survival in these kinds of conditions. Now, the process at work here is called supercooling, and that's usually written as one word, but it isn't really understood as yet, so there's a lot more for researchers to work on. However, the fact that this process occurs naturally in Antarctica may suggest that it might occur in other places with similar conditions, including on our neighbouring planet, Mars. So, you can start to see the wider implications of this kind of research. In short, it appears to support the growing belief that extraterrestrial life might be able to survive the dry, cold conditions on other planets after all. Not only does this research produce evidence that life is possible there, it's also informing scientists of the locations where it might be found. So all of this might have great significance for future unmanned space missions. One specialist on Mars confirms the importance of the interaction.
That is the end of Section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.